the host to Stay in Your Lane, the fastest man in comedy, Bernard Hollywood Williams. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, my brother. How are you all?
Good to hear from you, man. Been a long week. Hadn't talked to you all week. You sound tired, my friend. Everything okay? The girls running you ragged?
No, man. Shoot, I've been up for a long time.
I'm about to say, this man never runs out of energy. I was kind of surprised you sounded a little tired this morning. Listen, I wanted to ask you, Bernard, I want to get you into kind of some weird topics today. Are you a hockey fan at all? Are you a Capitals fan? Alexander Ovechkin fan? I know you're in Baltimore. It's the closest team's probably the Washington Capitals. You a fan of theirs at all?
Yes, when they won.
When they're winning. I like that. By the way, Ovechkin, nobody has ever celebrated winning the Stanley Cup better than Alexander Ovechkin. Like, you're hearing the stories about him swimming naked in a fountain at 2 o'clock in the morning. And my personal favorite is when he showed up at the Nationals game, and they show the image of him in the 7th inning, and he's up in the third upper deck of the stands. He's holding the Stanley Cup over his head, and they just show it to you for a flash. What they didn't show you is he was up there holding the cup over his head for the entire game. He'd been holding that, 80-pound trophy over his head for like 2.5 hours at that point and never dropped it.
Right.
That's impressive.
That's right.
That's impressive
I won
there.
I won my Olympic gold medal for 2 weeks straight.
You never take it off. Did you shower with it?
I didn't take it off for 2 weeks.
You just shower with it, right?
No, I took it off. I didn't want to ruin it, but whenever I put it right back on, man. That's the best feeling in the world, to be number one in the whole entire world, man. So I understand.
I can imagine, and being first is a huge thing. It's a milestone. Being first is a milestone, and that's why I wanted to talk to you a little bit about NHL, because this week a big topic of conversation has been, of course, in diversity, and kind of change in a number of areas. And this has actually expanded into the NHL. And in the NHL, let's be honest, it's not always been seen necessarily as a destination sport for minorities. They've been few and far between, at no fault of the NHL's. It's just the nature of the sport. It's not been a lot of minorities. There have been a handful over the years, but not any large number at any one time. So it's a huge step for the Arizona hockey team, the Arizona Coyotes. They have hired the very first Latino president in team history, Xavier Gutierrez. Now, the reason I'm excited about this is I think this is a perfect hire. It's a perfect hire in Arizona because it gives you the opportunity to expand hockey to a new market, to a new community, and that being the Latino community. In Arizona, of course, having a huge influence by the Latino community is a perfect place to do that. Now, Bernard, let me ask you this. Do you not agree that Mexican hockey and all that would look like would just be awesome?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Mexican hockey is. You got to explain that to me.
Well, can't you just imagine like a lively stadium experience, complete with trumpets, with bands, with mariachi bands, flashy colors, great food and smells? Like it could be an awesome experience. Let me give you an example. Collin, you have some audio for me? This is an example of what a Mexican hockey league could sound like.
Pisa el área, mete el tiro, lo fue esperando Paganoni, lo barrió de maravilla. Ahora Osvaldo Martínez. Buena pelota, buen trazado. El joven Bermúdez pide mano penal. Penal, 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 penal. Penalti. Ni siquiera dudó Jorge Antonio Pérez. A mí me parece que sí era. Y se lo marcaron a favor al Atlante.
Avienta ahí el saco ahí a Sergio Pacheco, que está tras su auxiliar molesto, Chávez.
Atento Fabián a enfrentar al arquero Jesper Hansen. Le va a pegar de pierna derecha. Le pega con la diestra. ¡Sí! ¡Gol! ¡Gol!
Okay, all right.
You tell me you can't get behind that? I could absolutely get behind that. I could watch 3 hours of that.
Hear me out. Now look, basically that sounds like a soccer game over in Spain, all right, which is pretty awesome. And it also sounds like the running of the bulls, when the bull actually get a hold of somebody after they've been stabbing them. And that's pretty good to watch, too. But it definitely brings a lot of energy. But, again, I think that would be great.
Let me tell you what that actually was.
You gave me the soundtrack.
You talk about it sounded like a soccer game. It sounds like a running of the bulls. What that actually was, that was actually the Spanish broadcast of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals from last year. So they were actually calling a St. Louis Blues game. You wouldn't have known it. That's fine. But I could watch 3 hours of that and then go run through some brick walls after hearing that. Go ahead, Collin.
I found one more.
You got one more? You got one more? We might have to get to this. We'll get to that in just a second because I wanted to mention this. The NHL players have actually created a diversity alliance to try and promote more minorities into making it into the NHL and develop more minority players. I also like the idea of this. Listen, if you were to go out and say a word that you shouldn't say on the ice, listen, this is hockey. You don't have to worry about getting a fine. You don't have to worry about get suspended. What you got to worry about is now there's a coalition of players. You go out there and you say some sort of slur. There's now going to be a whole coalition of enforcers from different teams who are lining up to kick your butt. I support this entirely.
I support it too. But, I mean, we got a lot of brothers out here that actually play hockey, and they've been catching it real bad. They've been getting a lot of racial slurs thrown at them. Banana peels, all type of monkey gestures and things like that. So, that's cool that they having another minority add in to hockey, but let's take care of the ones that's actually in there as well, man.
Well, definitely going to be a big push for that, and I think that's a big part of what this diversity alliance is all about. Collin, you got some quick audio for me, and then I got one other stay in your lane story we got to get to with Bernard.
Yes, I do. This is the call for the NASCAR race at the Charlotte Roval for the Fox Sports Latin American team.
Okay.
Última vez, viene con todo Jimmy. Aquí está Jimmy, se va Martin Truex, se va Jimmy Johnson al penalti de 24 en la curva 3. Venga Jimmy, venga Martin Truex. Venga Jimmy, venga Martin Truex. A la 4, aquí está. Fuerte frenada por parte de Jimmy. Por última, derrapando Jimmy. Va a ser más. Se ha tocado. ¿Quién va a ser? ¿Quién va a ser? ¿Quién va a ser? No me digas que va a ser Blaney. ¿Qué te digo? ¿Qué te digo?
¡Qué carrera!
This was either a Spanish NASCAR race or somebody is getting their butt kicked, it sounds like. This sounds like a beating is happening. All right, I got to stay in our lane story we got to get to. I want to talk about this guy who goes out to Miller Park. And since there's nothing else to do in Milwaukee, he does what most people do while they're there. He gets really drunk. And, Milwaukee, I didn't know if you know this, is an old Indian word. It's for the land of the crappy beer. Yeah, that's actually what Milwaukee is. It's an old Indian word. So this guy goes and he drinks a whole bunch of Miller. He decides to go to Miller Park, which is where the Milwaukee Brewers play. The guy steals a tractor and decides to take the tractor on a joyride. And here's how he gets caught is he decided to write his name in the outfield of Miller Park using the tractor. Wasn't hard to narrow down who he was. They were able to arrest Keon Lambert very quickly because apparently there weren't two Keon Lamberts living in Milwaukee, so they were able to figure this out. So I think we have to say you don't want to get drunk in Milwaukee, steal a tractor, and write your name in the outfield. Instead, you need to do what, Bernard?
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Absolutely right. Collin, who's our beast of the day today?
I'm going to go with NASCAR.
You're going to go with NASCAR?
Mm-hmm.
For getting rid of the Confederate flags, finally
taking steps forward for a better tomorrow.
2020 is where we're at today, Bernard Williams. I stand by this comment. The only place it is currently acceptable for a Confederate flag to be seen is now in either a museum or a textbook.
I disagree. I think they should keep them up. That way we know where it's safe.
Interesting.
Letting people tell on themselves is a valuable asset.
That lets me know that I don't need to be there. It lets me know where I'm not welcome. I mean,
Bernard, always appreciate you, my man. We'll talk to you later this week.
All right, brother.